This week, the games in focus are Bethesda's Elder Scrolls series. At 4:15, we'll discuss which is the best game of the series. Around 4:30, we'll talk to our gamer, Matt Fox. And finally, at 4:45, we'll take a look at the gestures and the score of the music and how that affects the player. With Nick Jerzak and Eric Jaworski in Ithaca College's VIC radio studio on Saturday, October 5th, this is the Game Corner.
Welcome to another edition of the Game Corner. I'm Nick Jerzak here with my lovely co-host Eric Jaworski. And we're going to have one little thing on the agenda that's changed. Unfortunately, due to extenuating circumstances, Matt Fox is not able to join us today. But we do have Blake McDonald later at 4:30, so it's going to be absolutely awesome. So we're just going to start this up. We are going to talk about the Elder Scrolls today, as we had said in the intro there. And you know what? Let's look at some of the aspects of the Elder Scrolls series.
Let's tell our history, obviously. I've only gotten to play the Oblivion and Skyrim. Those are my only two experiences, while you, on the other hand, have played Morrowind, right?
Yes, it is actually a series of games that take place in the continent of Tamriel. It's a fictional continent. Think of it sort of like Lord of the Rings in an aspect of it.
Yeah, basically.
But you know what? It's one of the greatest games out there. It's one of the best role-playing games. You get to choose different races of elves and beasts and men and things like that, and it's a lot of fun. And that's actually one of the best things about it, is that you have so much customization option in the game itself.
Literally from the details of your nose. I mean, you could spend 10 minutes just to perfect a nose, which is crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, even so, we're going to get into the up for debate for the actual customization later, as we talk about the whole which game is the best of the series in that respect. But what are the things that you like about the Elder Scrolls, Eric?
Again, starting off, it is definitely that ability to be able to customize your own character and your own story in a way. And especially with the Elder Scrolls series, there's just so many stories, so many quests that you go on that you can almost create a story yourself. You have different tales that you can tell about, and when you tell your friends, I don't remember encountering a talking dog. What? This is weird. Or getting this beacon. Yeah, so it is interesting how you're almost you're able to make a story yourself and choose whatever path you want, just given the range of options. And yeah, just the lore, to be honest, as it is. I guess Lord of the Rings, Elder Scrolls is basically the video game version of Lord of the Rings in a way, where there's just so much history in this, so much culture, so many races, and how they act upon each other. It is interesting to be in that mix.
Seeing as most of our listeners do not actually know the history of the Elder Scrolls and what the actual stories in the game are, I will start out with 3, seeing as I don't really know much about Arena or Daggerfall, which were the 2 games before it. And 3 starts in Morrowind, and you are a reincarnated being called the Nerevar, which is supposed to be the being that supposedly is supposed to defeat the evil god Dageth-Ur and set Morrowind free from his evil rule. And it's an interesting story, to say the least. Most of it is really, really, really difficult, though, seeing as it was an Xbox game. It had the Xbox graphics, and it had some minor complications with actual movements and even fighting skills, and that was very, very choppy at times. When you go into the Xbox 360 generation and look at Oblivion, you're playing as a simple prisoner who was placed in by some form of luck into the same prison cell where the emperor of all of the entire empire of Tamriel was going to try and escape from the Mythic Dawn, who were a cult of Mehrunes Dagon worshipping freaks who planned to murder him and basically let Mehrunes Dagon take over the province of Tamriel.
And it sound our nerdy talk, to be honest.
Well, it's nerdy, of course, but
just how much detail. I always forget names, to be honest. Or
the emperor's name was Uriel Septim. The new emperor in the game is Martin Septim, and I'm not going to give away anything at the end, just because if you haven't played through the entire game, it's amazing. You have to play through it. You're closing Oblivion gates all across the way, that sort of thing. It's a lot of fun. Finally,
can I talk about Skyrim now, since
if you want to give the history on Skyrim, you can go ahead, Eric.
Skyrim, which came out in 11/11/11, which was a crazy day. Basically, again, you're a prisoner who is like about to be executed, but then a dragon appears.
Alduin.
Alduin, yeah, I believe. As I thought I was going to say Aragorn or something like that, but Alduin, this sort of like the god of dragons in a way, is resurrecting all these dragons all around, and it turns out you are the Dragonborn, a sort of like class of people who not only are able to kill dragons, but also absorb their soul and use the power of the thumb, or like the voice, I believe.
Yes, it is, and that is converted through shouts.
And at the same time, you're also in between a civil war with the Empire and the Stormcloaks, I believe.
Which is a faction within Skyrim who believe that Ulfric Stormcloak should be High King in Skyrim.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, you've got other people who believe that Elisif over in Solitude should be the High Queen in this case. So it's the Empire versus the natives. The natives don't really like it because they think that they should be able to worship Talos. Talos worship, Talos is one of the gods. Mm-hmm. They believe they should be able to worship him, but the Empire is restricting that, and it's a lot of politics, a lot of religion, and it's a lot of fun.
How many years was it? Like, because I know there's like 100-year difference between Oblivion and Skyrim. Is it?
Something like that was. I believe that Skyrim takes place in the Fourth Era. Mm-hmm. The Fourth Era comes after Martin Septim is pronounced the Emperor, and he saves all of Tamriel from Mehrunes Dagon's evil rule. And then I believe, that it's not spoiling too much. It's not spoiling too much.
Still.
Anyway, but we've also got Morrowind, which takes place, I want to say, in the Third Era as well, but I can't be completely positive. It's been years since I played that, mostly since I don't have an original Xbox anymore. We can't even call it the Xbox One anymore.
That's true, you're right, because now there is an Xbox One that is just in the way. But should I read some interesting facts about the Elder Scrolls games?
Go for it, Eric.
So, okay, let me start with Skyrim. Most, if not all, of the musical pieces presented in Skyrim are refurbished versions of the music in the Elder Scrolls III Morrowind. And, of course, this was also popped up in Oblivion. And, of course, the composer for this was Jeremy Soule, composed all these themes in a way. So it's, I suppose, like, when we hear the music today and talk about it, it is sort of like a leitmotif. I won't get into more detail. What else? The guards will often say, "Let me guess, somebody stole your sweet roll," to the player. The stolen sweet roll has been a running gag throughout Bethesda Softworks games since Morrowind, so you probably would have found it in Oblivion.
There's actually another running gag that goes throughout the other games where it's the first Fighters Guild mission that you ever do has to do with rats. In Morrowind, you are asked to go and kill rats that have invaded somebody's house, and they're locked in a different room, and it's your job to get rid of them. In Oblivion, it is actually your job to go and protect rats from a set of mountain lions. And you know what was really disappointing was that Skyrim did not have the running gag going with the rats.
Some things happen. Here's another one for Oblivion where, as a reference to Julius Caesar, whom Patrick Stewart has played as Emperor Urul Septim, spouts numerous quotes from the play itself in the final moments before his death. So it is interesting how, like, actor would just, like, maybe say lines, especially since he is a king and being another king again. I mean, he's got that Patrick Stewart, elegance to him.
You know, I actually like to do a lot of different sorts of playthroughs through this sort of game. I like to try and specialize myself to be a stealth character or a mage or a pure fighting ability, to try and do different quests using different characters. And that's one of the things that I actually want to talk to you now about, Eric, is what do you have a tendency to play as a certain type of character?
I'm usually the warrior. Like, I guess I do use magic a lot, but I usually use, like, healing once in a while to, like, help me out. But, yeah, I'm usually the warrior. And I do admit I have been trying to break that habit. Like, probably the first time I play a game, I'll just be the warrior who's, like, two-handed combat and using a bow. But I have been trying to use different stuff, like, and different classes, because it's usually, like, either Redguard or Nord. But I knew when I was replaying Skyrim, I was an orc, and, of course, as you know, with Oblivion, I'm trying to be a high elf who's able to sneak, who's really good at speechcraft, and of course, he looks like the Joker. I mean, I'm really trying to make him a fool.
You can really chalk that one up to me because I told you that you can change the hair color to actually get to that style of green.
And I went that far. So.
Yes, you did, and I'm sure that when we have Blake on, he will make fun of you without mercy for that.
Why?
Just because that's how Blake is. You know Blake.
Yeah, but I think he'll think that's awesome.
Anyway, I tend to try and do Dark Elves because I like the Dark Elf. They have the red eyes. They've got the ability to use swords and bows really, really well, as well as destruction magic, which are 3 of my favorite skills. And, you know, it's a lot of fun just trying to, I try to balance my guy out between all 3. I like to have a magic skill, I like to have a stealth skill, and I like to have the combat skills as well. So no matter what sort of position I get put in, that's the way that I go. Sometimes I'll try and specialize, though, as I said earlier, to maybe like make a Khajiit who's really good at pickpocketing and sneaking so that he can do Thieves Guild missions. And also, with regards to maybe like a Nord or an Orc, do a pure battle combat for Fighters Guild stuff, an Altmer or High Elf for the Mages Guild, so on and so forth.
Yeah, but again, with those skills, sometimes like they just develop even more. Even if like you're not wanting to be a stealth person, you're somehow still stealthy anyways. It just still increases itself, which is kind of weird, to be honest.
It's a little bit weird, and we're going to really, really get into this debate of which game is the best, especially when it comes to the skills and things in the next segment. And if anybody wants to get into the conversation right now, they can feel free to tweet at us at VIC Game Corner with the hashtag GamerLove as well as the hashtag Elder Scrolls. And you can give us your comments of what kind of character you like to play as, what you think of the various games, what is your personally favorite game. Mm-hmm. Feel free to do that. We will be monitoring on Twitter, so feel free. Jaws, do you have anything left to say about what's good or bad about the game series before we go to the break?
Well, again, it is good because you're able to make choices within the game. Or, well, actually, can you make choices? Because a lot of
of course you can make choices. In Skyrim, you can choose to be a Stormcloak or a Emperor.
Yeah, with certain degrees.
Empire.
But I'm just like wondering whether like an event or like something happens where it completely alters. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of something where. Actually, no. I'm probably just saying nonsense in a way, but I mean, like to a very degree. Like there are some quests where it's like, yeah, I could easily choose to be a Stormcloak, but when there's something that you really don't agree with, like, can you actually back out with it, or or especially when you're getting to know someone, like the I don't know how to say Aela the Huntress. With the Brotherhoods in Skyrim, she's so hot. I want to have conversations with her, but
that's kind of a weird thing to say about a video game character.
She's really hot. I mean, you know how she looks like, right? With the red hair, the body, her clothes, and the face paint. I mean, I want to literally marry her in the game, but again, not really freedom to talk.
Okay.
Much, except unless you're wanting to train with her, which is archery.
Well, anyway, we are going to take our break here. When we come back, we're going to do the Up for Debate, which is the superior Elder Scrolls game, and I'll voice some of the things that you were talking about with regards to choice when we come back. Stay right here on the VIC Radio for the Game Corner. I'm Nick Jerzak.
And I'm Eric Jaworski.
The Game Corner.
I used to be an adventurer like you. Then I took an arrow in the knee. Let me guess. Someone stole your sweet roll.
The Elder Scrolls.
You are listening here to the Game Corner on VIC Radio. We are back, and we're going to be doing the Up for Debate segment. I'm Nick Jerzak.
And I'm Eric Jaworski.
And you know what? It's time to decide which is the superior Elder Scrolls game. I'm going to go over a few notes here that I have down, Eric, and I can tell you about some things in Morrowind and all the different games that have changed over time. When you look at Morrowind, it was on the Xbox. Of course, it's going to have the worst graphics, the worst sound, all that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. So you really have to take in what it can do for you customization-wise. It takes place in the Dunmer province of Morrowind, as we said before, and you have 27 skills in this one. as you're making your class, you can also choose to do major and minor skills to contribute to your character's level. There's some funky mechanics. It's much more difficult. There are no map markers to guide you on where to go, and it's harder to complete the main quest line. Essentially, characters are not protected from getting killed, so if you accidentally kill the wrong guy, then you have completely messed up your entire game file. You'll have to load it and start again. Another thing that's really, really characteristic of this game is that by joining certain clans and certain factions, you can actually get yourself onto the bad side of other factions. Thus, the idea of choice in this game is also very important, because there are a number of houses within the province of Morrowind that don't really get along. The Telvannis don't get along with the Redorans, and the Redorans don't get along with the Hlaalus, all that sort of thing. When you get to Oblivion, it takes place in the Imperial province of Cyrodiil, and you have 21 skills. You lose the skill of medium armor, spear, enchant, blunt weapon, axe, blunt weapon and axe are consolidated, where they were separate in Morrowind. And long blade, short blade are consolidated into just blade. You only have major skills, and you can only choose 7 of those out of, I think you could have chosen 12 skills for major, minor, altogether. And you have the most control over your character's appearance color-wise, such as the hair and things like that. And it introduces the realms of Oblivion to actually explore. You'll be closing Oblivion gates, things like that. When you get to Skyrim, it takes place in the Nord province of Skyrim, and you go from having 21 skills to 18. You lose mysticism, you reintroduce enchanting, you lose blade and blunt and replace it with one-handed and two-handed weapons. You introduce smithing, you lose armor, and speech and mercantile are consolidated into just speechcraft. There are no major or minor skills. You have more control over how a character actually looks, in terms of like the appearance of their face and things like that. Whether they have scars, the beards are much more realistic, things like that. It introduces dragons that you can kill, and you introduce skill trees as well as shouts, but you also lose the ability of spell making in this game as well, which you had in Oblivion, and I believe in Morrowind. So it's a really big trade-off. Do you want to be able to have any skill contribute to your level, or do you want to have the ability to customize yourself to the point where you want a specific class, you want your specific skills to contribute to your level? What do you think?
I was slightly playing Oblivion earlier this week, playing the intro, and I realized, again, how some of these aspects were missing, especially how you're able to say what my horoscope is. I am the serpent, which means I'm able to sneak easily, or whenever someone attacks me, they get damage for it. Well, and then I'm not done yet. And then
I was just going to butt up against that point, though, is that they do have the different way shrines, or rather these stones in Skyrim that let you choose something like that.
But you have to find them, which is the problem.
Yeah. But that's actually an achievement, too, if you find all of them.
Go on Google and on the internet and find the map. And then also how you're saying, I'm going to be a thief in this game, or of course making your own class, which I did with the Fool for the Joker. So that is something that I do admit that is sad about it. But taking this from a standpoint of a new person to the game, I think there might be a reason not only to allow more customization for the character, but just to find a way to clean it out. I mean, as you said, they lost blade and blunt in skills, but it's in hand combat, right? And within the tree, you're able to select, I want to definitely add a perk to blade and blunt objects or whatever it is. So they still consider it. It's just they still add that factor in. It's just that they found a way to simplify it and be able to have it all in one area, which is one-handed weapons and two-handed weapons.
See, I don't like that mentality, though. I don't like the idea that we've dumbed down from being able to choose a whole lot of things and a whole lot of options for us to choose how we actually play the game, versus the idea of, anybody can use any skill at any time. I don't like that idea, simply because it makes it so dumbed down, and it narrows your options so much. Even if you look at the weapons that are available from Morrowind to Skyrim, you'll notice that spears are gone, and spears are a big weapon for me. I would love to use a spear in Skyrim, but I'm not allowed to, because that's not an actual weapon present in the game. In that game, you only have longswords, and longswords, daggers, you have maces,
Maybe some
and
medium swords.
War axe. But then, when you get to things like Oblivion, you're able to choose, I don't know, you've got a katana in there, you've got the Daikatana, you've got the Claymore, you've got all these different classifications for those different weapons, which makes it that much better than just having a few select weapons that you can use. I think that if you dumb down the game to the point where you're only going to perks, that it's making it less fun for the old school players who absolutely loved creating their classes and sticking to their classes, sticking to their guns.
But at the same time, the company wants to introduce, the game series to new players, and they don't want to make it complicated where when a player starts to play, they're like, I don't know what to do. Like, even Conan, made fun of this, all this customization stuff, that it was still a lot for him to, take in as he was trying to play this game. So that's just what it's still crazy enough to learn all the controls and learn all the different. There's so much that's going in for a new player to learn about the land, the fantasy, the whole culture, any sides, any stories, and then of course having to learn. There's gods in here, and having to learn it. So that's also the other thing. It's just they probably don't want it to complicate for new players. That's what.
Speaking to that idea of complication and things like that, the entire game is supposed to be complicated, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I would think that, seeing as it's it's not intended for, young kids who are just getting new to video games and things like that. I think that it's really intended for those mature audiences, people who have maybe seen Lord of the Rings and things like that.
I kind of consider this to be a low M, maybe a high T. That's because it's again, with Grand Theft Auto, there's so much swearing that goes on. With this, it's fantasy lore. I mean, people are used to it. You don't see that any blood. There's not really that much blood that goes on. There's no swearing. You don't see any nudity at all. So that's the thing. Kids are allowed to play this because, again, it's a fantasy game. It's just... I'm not trying to think. There's another game out there, but again, when we watched Lord of the Rings when we were 10 years old, and we loved it. Skyrim, the Elder Scrolls is Lord of the Rings.
To butt up against that, though, you noticed that in let's just take Lord of the Rings for a second, and let's look at the various characters in it. You see Aragorn, who is sort of this. Consider him like a battle class versus, I don't know, Legolas, who's more of a stealth class, who relies on the bow and relies on being far back and using skill as opposed to brute strength. And
technically, that's Gimli, who's the brute strength.
Gimli's is more brute strength than Aragorn, but I was just thinking off of my head here.
Fair enough.
And you know what? That shows the idea of classes within Lord of the Rings, something that is very, very complicated, but at the same time, it's also simple.
Well, you're still able to make your classes anyways, even with the Skyrim game. You're still able to perfect your skill no matter what. If you want to become, good at smithing, you smith. If you want to be good at hand combat, you do hand combats. That's just what you do. Instead of just saying, oh my goodness, why am I not a thief? I hate to stealth. That's kind of a weird thing to say, to be honest. If you want to be a thief, you need to be stealthy. You need to train it.
In terms of story, what do you think is the better game?
I'm thinking. Again, I don't know much about Morrowind.
Actually, I don't even know much about Morrowind's story, to be perfectly honest.
I think probably Skyrim, because it gives probably again sort of a nice tale of hunting, and then of course going into learning about the dragons, actually meeting a dragon and talking with a dragon. That's kind of what I liked about it, was definitely the big factor was the dragons.
I am going to disagree with you.
You're going to say Oblivion.
There. I'm going to say Oblivion was the superior Elder Scrolls game, especially in story, because if you look at all of the various clans and things that you can join up with, you get a much more emotional feeling from those in Oblivion, and you have much more emotion closing Oblivion gates and saving people's lives than you do in Skyrim, where people aren't really... necessarily praising you, and I never really got attached to any one person in...
Sure, people when you go down the street, they're like, oh my god, it's the Dragonborn. People do that all the time.
But I I don't really get connected to any one character. I don't really like Esbern as a character or Delphine with regards to the Blades. Whereas when you look at the Blades in Oblivion, I actually liked Joffrey and I liked Boris and I liked all of these players who were being shown off a hell of a lot more. And it's one of those things where I like to be more connected to the story, and this story didn't connect me to anything at all. It basically was saying, you are this person, go do this.
Well, you know another thing I like about Skyrim?
What?
Becoming a werewolf.
That too. You do have that in Skyrim.
You could be a werewolf and vampire at the same time, right?
No, you can't.
Oh, okay, never mind. But anyways, you're Dragonborn, and you're able to turn into a werewolf.
Anyway, if you have any thoughts on this sort of thing and you want to talk to us, tweet at VIC Game Corner with the hashtag GamerLove and tell us what you think is the superior Elder Scrolls game. When we come back, we will have Blake McDonald with us to talk to a gamer segment.
I was just going to say how great it is to be a werewolf.
Yes.
It is. It's the best.
Anyway,
Epic.
You're listening to the Game Corner here on VIC Radio. The Game Corner.
I can go no further. You alone must stand against the Prince of Destruction and his mortal servants. He must not have the Amulet of Kings.
You sleep rather soundly for a murderer.
Stop right there, criminal scum. Nobody breaks the law on my watch.
Find him and close shut the jaws of oblivion.
The Elder Scrolls.
We are back here on the Game Corner on VIC Radio, and we are going to be talking to our gamer, Blake. Blake, are you there, buddy?
I'm here.
Blake! How are you?
Hey.
I miss you.
I miss you too, man.
Anyway, let's give a little bit of history on Blake. Obviously, Eric, you have the best knowledge of Blake.
Blake is my best friend back from Chicago. You go to Ohio University. You finally are a film major, I believe.
I am.
And you also have a number of pets.
I have a lot of pets.
And
a surprising number of pets.
Yep, and you also are a big PC gamer.
I also build computers.
Yeah.
That's rather impressive. Let's just get into the actual questions here that we have for you, Blake. What do you like about the Elder Scrolls series as a whole?
You know, it goes outside the normal realm of the FPS and the MMO and kind of incorporates the two of them, so you don't really have to choose between, hey, I want to play a shooter, hey, I want to play an online game. Skyrim just kind of, or not Skyrim, but Elder Scrolls as a whole, throws you into this world that not a lot of other game companies are willing to invest in. I guess what I'm saying, the expandability and the magnitude of the world around you is just mind-boggling. And it seems like every time I get on the game, no matter how often I say, hey, I've done everything, there's always something you need to do, whether there's no DLC or not. You can never finish the game.
I like that assessment. You were probably listening to what we were doing in the segment before with the Up for Debate, what the superior Elder Scrolls game is. And
I was.
And what do you think? What's your which game is your favorite?
It's a tough call. I mean, the series as a whole is just fantastic. It's close between Skyrim and Oblivion. Morrowind, I haven't invested as much time in as the other two, but Oblivion is one of the games that I grew up on, or end of middle school, early high school. But Skyrim is, it just took the Elder Scrolls to a whole new level. I know that you said you were a huge fan of Oblivion, but I'm going to have to side with Eric on this one just because the whole storyline aspect. I am a story buff more so than I am a gameplay buff, and though, they dropped a lot of gameplay features, I feel like the story really developed a lot further in Skyrim than it did Oblivion.
Great minds think alike. Thank you, Blake.
It seems like all of our callers, rather all of our guests, seem to side with Eric.
I know.
You're alone, Nick.
Yeah,
I have a good point.
I know.
I give good points. Allow torture and stuff in Grand Theft Auto. It's going to be coming anyways. It's Grand Theft Auto.
Wait, Blake can't play that.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You can't play because you're a PC gamer.
I'm a PC gamer at heart, and I cried a little the day it came out.
Now, having said that, and your favorite game, and how you like the story over the actual features in the game, do you think that the game series has actually gotten dumbed down over the years?
Absolutely. There's a whole new generation of gamers coming into the gaming market right now. I mean, I've seen kids as young as 8 playing Black Ops, and that just kind of perplexes me because when I was a kid, I mean, we had the N64, and you were lucky if your parents would even let you consider getting a TRM game. And nowadays, it seems like it's just what kids do. It's just general consensus. Hey, they're going to grow up playing this anyway. Why not do it? And I think, given that, game companies are kind of adapting around that because kids aren't as used to these heavy-set gameplay mechanics like that in like Guild Wars or World of Warcraft that we've seen in previous games like Morrowind and Oblivion. So Skyrim, I feel like, definitely dumbed it down a little bit, but at the same time, they put a lot more effort into the story than they did physical mechanics.
So yeah, getting new gamers in, as I said before. So, again, he agrees with me.
Again. Yes, he agrees with Eric as usual.
But what kind of race or kind of character do you usually play as in Oblivion or Skyrim? Or
hands down, the Argonians. I am a water buff by heart. The ocean is always something that's fascinated me. When I get bored in Skyrim or Oblivion, I like to go swimming.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
The other thing, too, is diseases are a real problem with me because I have a tendency to get sick in real life and in game fairly easily. And the Argonians are 9 times out of 10 immune to most of those diseases.
Yeah, that's
them and the Wood Elves. And the Wood Elves. Anyway, let's see here. The prefer a certain race or kind of character. Do you tend to look at the stealth or the magic or the combat, or do you like to try and balance it all out?
Absolutely stealth. There is nothing that satisfies me more than sneaking through an entire dungeon or mansion just to kill the one guy. It's just this thrill that you feel of success. You don't have to go in guns blazing. I mean, I'm a stealth guy. Don't get me wrong.
So wait, you're willing to sneak in a dungeon just to kill one guy, not like to kill everyone in there. That's a weird thing that he said.
Granted, I enjoy going gun blazing from time to time, but I find it more of an achievement to actually get through the dungeon completely stealthily or as stealthily as possible. I see that more as an achievement than I do just killing everything that stands in front of me.
Fair enough.
Now I don't know if you've seen this, but there are have been rumors let out on YouTube about where the 6th game is going to take place on the next-gen consoles and, of course, on PC, because they're not going to release a Elder Scrolls game on the consoles and not on PC. That would be almost...
I would hope not.
That would be almost blasphemy.
Oh, yeah.
And I would still laugh.
Where do you want the next game to actually take place?
Honestly speaking, I'm a huge fan of the whole medieval aspect of it, but I feel like they can move forward a couple hundred years at this point.
Yeah, like especially with in one of your comments where you actually want gunpowder in the game, so you actually want to move from like using crossbows to.
See, I don't want to completely eliminate that. I just think that.
But you want the evolution so that you can actually like have a gun or.
I mean, even looking back at ancient China and stuff like that, they still use crossbows, they use arrows, but gunpowder was a developing thing and it was highly inaccurate. But at the same time, the whole feeling and the stereo system I've got here, I'd love some explosions. Let me just say that.
Now, before I give away where the next they are thinking of the next game, or rather rumoring about where the next game is going to be, is there a particular province that you want to see it in? Because I know you said something about Argonians.
Right. Honestly, I could have less of a preference. If they make another game, I'll buy it. That's kind of where I'm at, because everything that they produce has just been fantastic, and I give them full trust.
That's fair enough.
They're actually talking about Somerset Isle.
Really?
Yeah.
Very nice. And I'm definitely excited for that.
Wait, where's Somerset Isle?
That is the land of the High Elves.
Okay. So it's going to get elfish around there. Again, there's been, especially almost for the past year, there's been talk about the whole Elder Scrolls Online.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think about that?
I have a lot of mixed feelings about it, and that is not because of the story. That is strictly because of mechanics. A lot of the rumors that I've seen, the one that concerns me the most is the idea of the mega server, if you guys have heard of that.
Oh, yes. Where you've got a bunch of players on a single server, that's going to crash in instants.
The process behind that is, every MMO and online game office now, you've got different lobbies, you've got different servers to avoid crashing. But the way that they want to go with this is to put every single player online in one server. And, I'm not so concerned with it crashing as I am not being able to kill anything, harvest anything, or do anything.
Yeah, I don't want,
everywhere you walk, you can't walk 2 steps without walking through someone.
I don't want the mistake that they had with the Final Fantasy Online game where,
oh yeah,
especially they say that they're going to give so much stuff and then it's hard to deliver to like get that up that level because you got these weird missions that are just pointless. So that's also a worried thing. But it will still be great to like be online, whether it's PS4 or on Mac or PCs, to be able to like play with you, and then we go on quests together. It's like, yeah, we're having such a good time.
It's definitely going to add in a whole new element to the game and bring in a lot more people. But at the same time, I have concerns because just the whole concept on the Mega server, I have a lot of deep-seated concerns with that.
I want to take it back for a second and go back to the things that we want to see in the next game. I'm going to run some things past you. Obviously, we went over the whole idea of gunpowder, but do you want to reintroduce any skills from Morrowind or anything that's been lost and turn them into major, or reintroduce the idea of major skills or anything like that?
Like I said, I'm a huge stealth guy, and a problem with Skyrim is, at the beginning of Morrowind and the beginning of Oblivion, you can customize your character right off the bat to, adjust for what you want to do in the game. Skyrim didn't offer that so much. You kind of had to develop that as the game went on and make some pretty hard choices in the process. So I'd like to see the mechanics build up a little more, but still keeping the story as solid as it was in Skyrim.
Of course, but do you want to see things like Spear come back or anything like that?
I mean, honestly, where I'm at, I'll buy it if they make it, and I'm happy with what they'll produce. What
about additional races? What about the Dwemer maybe being able to be a Dremora?
Wait, what are those?
The Dremora, they're the Daedras who inhabit Oblivion.
Yeah. Oh, God, that'd be awesome. Or even
skill sets that would come along with a character like that would be phenomenal.
What about dwarves? Even though,
well, that's what the Dwemer are.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Eric, come on, man.
Again, I'm bad with associating names. Again, I was like, Argonians are those lizards, and then you got the Khajiit that are...
Khajiit.
Yeah, exactly, who are those cats. Hi. And then you were given, different terms for, the orcs. It was, Okbar or... Orsimer, and then,
It's really not that complicated.
Well, for me it is. I'm bad with names. You know this.
Game.
What?
Sit down and play the game, Eric.
Well, again, I'm not paying attention to, I'm not really paying attention of what things are called. All I'm focusing is going in and killing people. That's usually my goal in a game. That's what.
Oh man.
Okay, well let's finish this up with what games are you looking forward to besides, I don't know, Elder Scrolls or anything that is actually coming out soon?
I've got a down payment on Battlefield 4, and I'm really looking forward to that coming out.
Battlefield 4? That sounds absolutely awesome. Do you have an Xbox Live gamer account?
I have an Xbox Live, but I don't game on my Xbox anymore. It's essentially become my DVD player here at college.
You use Steam more often, which is...
I use Steam and Origin for EA, and only for EA, because Origin is, highly inferior to Steam.
I don't know if they have anything similar to a gamer tag with that. That's more of a...
Well,
They do. They basically do.
Do you want to give out that gamer tag so that, or whatever it is, so that people can play with you, anything like that?
Absolutely. My gamer tag is PepperLizard, PEPPERLIZARD, all one word.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show, Blake. We'll be in contact with you again if we have any other games that you want to talk to us about, and it's been a real pleasure having you on the show.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Have a good time tonight, dude.
See you guys.
And I'll see you Thanksgiving.
That was Blake McDonald,
yes.
and he had some great insight into it.
Oh, yeah.
We have to take a break, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, it's so nice to take a break.
When we come back, though, we will be talking about the music in the Elder Scrolls series and the idea of Jester, so don't go away. This is the Game Corner on VIC Radio. The Game Corner.
Come, Nerevar, friend or traitor, come. Come and look upon the heart and of Kulakan. Come to me through fire and war. I'm a god. How can you kill a god? Too late. This is the end, the bitter end.
The Elder Scrolls. Welcome back to the Elder Scrolls version of the Game Corner. I am Nick Jerzak.
And I'm Eric Jaworski.
And here we're going to be talking about the idea of Jester and the score in the Elder Scrolls series. Eric, what are your thoughts on this?
Again, basically, this is the Lord of the Rings of video games. I mean, it doesn't have a giant epic as much of an epic feel as Richard Wagner, but it definitely does create music, atmosphere into it, like especially with like some harps that are going on, and especially with Skyrim, that choir that sings in Dragon Tongue.
And you know what it is really, really, I think, key to this music is the idea of gesture. A gesture is basically, as you said earlier, a leitmotif. It's a single movement within a piece that repeats over and over again, but gets changed over time. And you'll hear it in every single game, the titles of every single game, where it's dun 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 dun, where it's sort of that sort of gesture that keeps getting repeated over and over and over again.
Dovahking, Hasusus Varin.
And let's talk about a little bit of how this actually makes us feel as players, what the various ones actually sound like. Should we take a listen?
Yep, sounds reasonable.
Okay, this one is I believe this is the Skyrim theme.
Yes, Dragonborn.
This is Dragonborn. If it's not Dragonborn, then it's Behold the Nerevar, or it's the Hail the Septums or something like that.
Reign of Septums.
Reign of the Septums. Thank you.
We'll find. Yes.
And we're going to point out some stuff as it's going here. Oh, no, wait, no, this is the Nerevar. This is Nerevar. This is the Morrowind theme, and you hear the gesture that's right there.
Mm-hmm.
You hear the gesture of the flutes right there.
Yep.
Now,
along with the harp, as I hear.
That too, yeah. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, this is the harp that's playing, so it is like playing every single note while you hear, I believe it's a cello that's like, creating the bed music for it. It kind of like has elegance to this, I gotta say, where it does like give epicness to the player, but it's like, we have purpose, or it's like discovery of something. I don't know. That's why I take from this.
I see it as a more sort of tribunal sort of thing. You won't hear this sort of thing from many different places, and it almost reminds me of maybe something that you would hear as almost a native feel. Like the whole idea of Morrowind is that you're in competition with a bunch of different houses. You've got Telvanni, who are basically the mages, and the Redoran and the Hlalu. And these are all different various clans, and I feel like this has a very clandestine nature where you have a destiny that you are supposed to fulfill.
That seems reasonable. So it's kind of like royalty in a way. That's kind of like a good way to describe it. But should we move to the next one?
Let's move on to the next one.
I think this one's Reigns of Septums.
This must be, because I must have put them in some sort of order on the CD here. Yes, this is the Reign of the Septums. This is the one for Oblivion.
Mm-hmm.
We're not quite at the gesture idea that we've been talking about. We're building up.
Hold on. What's that? Symbol? And what?
There it is right there on the trumpet. And you know what that says to me? That says to me regal royalty.
Yep, regal royalty, especially because in Oblivion you're like involved with the Empire, which is kind of like almost Roman-based if you think about it.
Yes, if you look at Patrick Stewart. Patrick Stewart's character, he is the emperor of the entire thing of Tamriel.
And like as I kind of said, his character is basically like Julius Caesar, which again he tried to like put that character into his performance as Septim, or whatever his name is.
At the same time, if you heard the tube, well, I don't think that was a tuba, but there was some sort of French horn or trombone there that played like this dark melody, which gives it the sort of the dark tone that the game is supposed to have. Ambiguity of what the future may hold. If Mehrunes Dagon wins, then we are all pretty much screwed.
Yep, the Oblivion gates have opened. And now let's go to the next one, which I like.
You just like this because you love Skyrim. Hang on, here we go.
Skyrim, and also, again, the Dragon.
This one is Dragonborn. This is for the Skyrim theme.
I might be singing the lyrics because I pulled them up.
Now you've already got the beginning of Nerevar like you had before. And it has this slight build with the timpani, as you can hear it.
It's very barbaric. That's definitely what it sounds like.
It sounds like you're rowing a huge freaking boat with a bunch of Vikings.
Dovahkiin, not ytterst farlig, bara deg, Doro, advokat, goodbye, advokat, Santa, Zop, Zip, Zap, Zop, Dovahkiin.
What I really like about this is that they use the actual dragon language.
Which, like, it's translated out to, like, being Dragonborn by his honor is sworn to keep evil forever at bay, and the fiercest foes rout. When they hear triumph's shout, Dragonborn, for your blessing we pray.
It is a very, very epic song, especially with the chanting.
Yeah, with the choir.
You've got all this feeling of a very Nordic sort of feel, which is natural because it takes place in the cold wasteland of Skyrim.
Mm-hmm. Where, you basically do see, again, it's just the things that they wear, like the leather coats, or the leather armor, and the helmets. It does look very Slavic, or, Nordic.
And you know what I think this really speaks to is that I believe the scores of the games are supposed to really, really correspond to where you are within a location.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as you noticed, the different music from all the games matched the various regions of Tamriel.
And also possibly what's going on with the story as it is.
And that is actually a very good point to make as well, because the music changes as you're in different situations. Whether when you're exploring, there's a different sound than when you're in battle, and when you're exploring a cave or something, it's very, very different than what you would hear otherwise. You'll hear the various drip drop sort of feel from a cave if you're inside of a cave, and I think that's
maybe from hearing an echo or something like that. That's basically what they try to go for. Is like you're almost hearing an echo when the music's playing, with maybe a little bit of suspense, like violins, like string, like or something like that.
And it's a lot of fun. The idea of gesture is something that has been used over and over again in various different forms of music. You'll hear it in rock music. You'll hear it in musical scores, especially in movie scores, where the idea of leitmotif, where a sound is associated with something on picture, And Jaws is one of the most famous things for that.
Yes, I love my theme. It's so awesome. But also, of course, with those intervals, even the tritones are, I don't know. There's again with the stars, da 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 da. So it's again, it's always those intervals that get people to remember a certain song or something like that. But yeah, especially I'm looking at the soundtrack album for Skyrim, and they have at least 52 songs, and one of the tracks is 42 minutes long. It's complete Skyrim atmospheres, which I'm glad that they give the atmosphere of the game.
That is a very, very, very long score. Not going to lie.
Well, it's good study music, that's for sure. I have it in my study playlist, so it's yes, I want to listen to some River.
Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt this program to announce to you that Eric has been using the music from Skyrim as not for an exploring sort of thing or to show that he's a barbarian, but to show that he is studying. Congratulations, Eric.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm glad to be recognized for this and the potential of soundtrack music to not only be epic music as you drive down a highway, but just to sit down and to just study with. I thank you for that recognition, Nick.
You are more than welcome for that recognition. We've got about 5 minutes left in here. Do we have any more thoughts about the Elder Scrolls series? Any more thoughts about the music? I mean, I think we covered a really great base.
I guess I am kind of excited, even if, with the giant server for Elder Scrolls Online, I'm still excited to, still be able to play it, either with you or Blake, whether it'll be on the PS4 or...
No, it's going to be on the PS4.
Well, no, with my choice of either being it on the Mac or PS4. That's just what I'm saying. And just being able to play online, customize my character even more, and get involved with the lore even more, which I admit I need to get into it more.
Yes, you do. That was an embarrassment that you couldn't pronounce things correctly.
Well, I never pronounce things correctly. You know this.
I know this, but
Echoes Deluxe, as I would say, for one of those artists. Echoes Deluxe and Gibbard or Gibbard.
With the idea of the Elder Scrolls Online, though, I do also have a lot of concerns. Blake's concern is the mega server, which, again, that is a huge concern because that, if you've got like millions of people playing all across the world, things like that, then you're also going to have trouble maintaining that server. But I also have a fear that they're also going to dumb down the game. We've already seen how dumbed down the game of Skyrim has gotten for those newbie players, and you know what? I don't want to see it get dumbed down any more than it already is.
Again, I don't really care. Even, like, I don't care about the gameplay mechanics. All I care about is story and just being able to be in the world of Tamriel and to be able to kill trolls or fight dragons, whatever. It gets me in the world what I need to. I'm not looking at the picky stuff. It's like, oh, I can't do this. No, I'm still going to have a good time no matter what I do in Skyrim.
On a good note, though, it does allow you to explore every province of Tamriel.
Oh, yeah. That is... Wait, the online?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yes. You'll be able to go from Morrowind over to Skyrim over to the Somerset Isle in matter of minutes. And, you know, before we end things here on the Game Corner, we've got the Cityscapes coming in with Fram Jam. She also has Samuel B. Lupowitz with her. If you want to just hop on the mic for a second here, Fram Jam. What is the city today?
Today's Ithaca.
Ooh, nice.
Gotta give the people what they want.
I'm surprised you didn't start this out with.
Give the people what they want.
Well, I didn't start it out with mostly because, like I said last week, my mom loves U2, and she was so excited for Dublin and stuff, so I had to do it.
Fine.
Well, anyway, next week we are going to have a lot of fun with Mass Effect, and our gamer that time around is going to be Craig Collins, who is a WGN radio producer,
and also featuring another person to talk
Possibly. She has not confirmed whether or not she's going to be able to do it.
For our up-to-debate discussion.
Our up for debates discussion.
Yeah, we've talked for an hour, so we need to get off.
With everybody here on the Game Corner, I am Nick Jerzak.
I'm Eric Jaworski.
And you have the distinct pleasure now of going into the Ithaca area and looking at some of the things with Fram Jam's Cityscapes right after this. Stay tuned to VIC Radio.